In this short video, I wanted to review with you the 14 encyclical letters that form the legacy of John Paul II's magisterial writing at its highest level. And I wanted to share with you how those 14 encyclical letters cohere together in a comprehensive whole. The first encyclical letter, which is the encyclical letter with which our course begins, is Redemptor Hominis, which in English language translation means the Redeemer of Man. And already we've seen that the title of an encyclical letter comes from the first lines or the first words of the document itself, and this is clearly the case as well in Redemptor Hominis, which begins with the opening salvo, the opening anthem, if you will. The Redeemer of Man, Jesus Christ, is the center of the universe and of history. That was a theme that anchored that encyclical letter, but also guided and steered the whole of the pontificate, which lasted nearly 27 years, the third longest pontificate in Catholic Church history. The other 13 encyclical letters derive from this inaugural encyclical letter, Redemptor Hominis, and they continue to proclaim or announce this message that the Redeemer of Man, Jesus Christ, is the center of the universe and of history. But that proclamation has something of a prehistory. As a young Cardinal Archbishop of Krakow, Poland, Karol Wojtyła participated in the Second Vatican Council, which is where he came to know people like Joseph Ratzinger and Henri de Lubac, as well as Ansars von Balthasar and many others. At the council, he would have a hand in drafting and writing the pastoral constitution on the Church in the modern world, entitled in Latin Gaudium et Spes. The 22nd paragraph of that document, of that pastoral constitution, kind of becomes an anthem of the papacy of John Paul II, and it resounds throughout all the nearly 27 years of his reign as Supreme Pontiff. Let's take a look at that paragraph, which states that the truth is that only in the mystery of the incarnate Word does the mystery of man take on light. For Adam, the first man, was a figure of him who was to come, namely Christ the Lord. Christ, the final Adam, by the revelation of the mystery of the Father and his love, fully reveals man to man himself and makes his supreme calling clear. Here in this paragraph, paragraph 22 of Gaudium et Spes, the fathers of the Second Vatican Council affirm that Jesus Christ not only reveals the face and the will of God the Father, but he also reveals to man the truth and dignity of his personhood. Christ reveals man to man himself. In the one person of Jesus Christ, there is united his divinity and his humanity. As the Council of Chalcedon taught, Jesus Christ is fully God and fully man. It is only by turning to Jesus Christ that we can hope to understand the full truth of the human person. This message became the lodestar, the anthem of the papacy of John Paul II, and it is expressed in a very succinct and clear way in that opening salvo of Redemptor Hominis. But it echoes throughout all the other 13 encyclical letters. So let's take a look at what those letters are and how they cohere together. After Redemptor Hominis, John Paul II gives us another encyclical letter on another of the persons of the Divine and Holy Trinity. This is the encyclical letter Vase in Misericordia, which was promulgated on November 30th, 1980. In English translation, Vase in Misericordia means rich in mercy, and it is in this encyclical letter that Pope St. John Paul II proclaims the richness of God the Father in mercy. God is merciful. After this encyclical letter, John Paul II gives us the opening act, if you will, of all of his encyclical letters that touch on the theme of the Church's social doctrine. And so the third encyclical letter is Laborem Exercens, promulgated on the feast of the Exaltation of the Holy Cross, September 14th, 1981. We'll return to this in a moment. But after this encyclical letter, we have the fourth, Slavorum Apostoli of June 2nd, 1985, John Paul II had come, as we know, from Poland, where he had been the Cardinal Archbishop of Krakow, and he brought with him his own patrimony as a Slav, as a Slavic person. And so it's in this encyclical letter that he recalls to the Universal Church's memory the great persons Cyril and Methodius, who had brought Christianity to Eastern and Central Europe. This encyclical, though much more than being a document about the saints Cyril and Methodius, is also a treatment of the Christianization of culture and the task of evangelization, and the work of missionary life. These encyclicals then give rise to another encyclical letter, which is that of May 18th, 1986, entitled in Latin Dominum et Vivificantem, which treats of the role of the Holy Spirit in the life and missionary activity of the Church. What's important about these first 5 encyclical letters is that together they give us a triptych of the divine persons of the Holy Trinity, and in the midst of them we also find the truth of human person, especially under the aspect of work, and also we have a treatment of the task of Christian evangelization, Christianization of culture. So we have 3 encyclical letters, one for each of the persons of the divine and Holy Trinity, God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. But then we also have the 2 encyclical letters on work and the Christianization of culture. What's important, however, is that John Paul II doesn't begin the 3 encyclical letters on the Trinity with an encyclical letter on God the Father. Rather, he begins with an encyclical letter on God the Son, the person of the Trinity who takes on flesh in the womb of Mary. And so it's after Dominum et Vivificantem that he gives us an encyclical letter on Mary, the mother of the Redeemer. In Latin, the encyclical is entitled Redemptoris Mater. It's dated March 25th, 1987, the Solemnity of the Annunciation. He turns to Mary not only to look at her role in salvation history, but also as the locus, the place, where God himself takes on human flesh in the person of Jesus Christ, thus drawing to him all human reality. Before he had arrived at promulgating the encyclical letter Redemptoris Mater, John Paul II had given the Church the gift of the encyclical letter on the Holy Spirit, Dominum et Vivificantem, as I already mentioned, which was promulgated in 1986. And it's in the 50th paragraph of that document that he writes these very important and salient words. The incarnation of God the Son signifies the taking up into unity with God, not only of human nature, but in this human nature, in a sense, of everything that is flesh, the whole of humanity, the entire visible and material world. The incarnation then also has a cosmic significance, a cosmic dimension. The firstborn of all creation, becoming incarnate in the individual humanity of Christ, unites himself in some way with the entire reality of man, which is also flesh, and in this reality with all flesh, with the whole of creation. John Paul II is telling us here that the mystery of the incarnation is not just a matter of God becoming man, as profoundly significant a mystery that is, but it's also about God calling to himself in the person of Jesus Christ all fleshly human reality and divinizing it, sanctifying it, and so giving it a cosmic dimension. And it's therefore important that the Holy Father gives us an encyclical letter on Mary, the mother of the Redeemer, in whom the person of Jesus Christ draws to himself divinity and humanity in one person. And it's after this encyclical then, too, that he gives us what we could call the second of his social doctrinal encyclicals, Solicitudo Re Socialis. If Jesus Christ becomes man, drawing to himself all fleshly, all human reality, giving it a cosmic dimension, then we, who follow in the footsteps of Jesus Christ, have an obligation to have concern for all social reality. And this is, of course, the heart of the encyclical letter of December 30th, 1987, entitled in Latin, Solicitudo Re Socialis. Solicitudo, solicitude, concern for Re Socialis, for social realities. After this encyclical letter, then, he orients that concern of the church, exemplified in a very special way in the person of Mary, for social things, in the direction of the mission of the Redeemer, the task, the work of evangelization. And this is the focus of his December 7th, 1990 encyclical letter, Redemptoris Missio. But if we are to have concern for all social reality, if we are to have a Marian outlook on social reality, motivated by our belief in the incarnation of Jesus Christ, in the womb of Mary, then we also have to say a fuller word about the Church's social doctrine. And this is exactly what John Paul II undertakes to do in his May 1st, 1991 encyclical letter, Centesimus Annus, which in translation means the 100th year. It's promulgated after it's promulgated on the 100th anniversary of Rerum Novarum, the great social doctrinal encyclical of Leo XIII that inaugurated the Church's tradition in social doctrinal encyclicals. But if we're to understand social doctrine aright, we have to understand it in its proper context. And so therefore next, the Holy Father gives us an encyclical letter of August 6, 1993, entitled in Latin Veritatis Splendor, or in English translation, The Splendor of the Truth. And it's in this encyclical letter where he seeks to renew, to revivify the whole of moral theology. Now, in following in the wake of the Holy Father, if we are to have interest and concern, solicitude for res socialis, for the things of the social reality, with a true Marian and Christic spirit, then we also have to be concerned about two pressing needs of the Church as she approached the third Christian millennium and the dawn of the year 2000. These are the proclamation of the Gospel of Life, which John Paul II sets forth in Evangelium Vitae of March 25th, 1995, and also Christian unity, which he seeks to express, which he seeks to explore in his encyclical letter of May 25, 1995, entitled in Latin Ut Inem Sint, that they may be one. Finally, he leaves the Church with two final encyclical letters. John Paul II, as an academic, as a professor of philosophy and theology, knew full well that in the age of Enlightenment and in the age of Renaissance in Europe, the Church and culture had grown apart, that human reason, had become secularized and divorced from its theological foundation. And so in his encyclical letter of September 14th, 1998, he seeks to bring together faith and reason, just as Jesus Christ, in his one person, brought together divinity and humanity. This then leads him to give the Church as a gift one final encyclical letter, which is Ecclesia de Eucharistia of April 17th, 2003, his final encyclical letter, where he shows the relationship between the Church and the Eucharist and the person of Jesus Christ. He opens that encyclical letter with the affirmation, Ecclesia de Eucharistia vivit. The Church of the Eucharist lives. The Church by the Eucharist lives. These then are the 14 encyclical letters. In our study, we will begin with Redemptor Hominis of March 4th, 1979.